Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Dental Assisting Council meeting. My name is Kara Miyazaki, and I am the Vice Chair of the Dental Assisting Council. Today is Wednesday, November 8, 2023. This Dental Assisting Council meeting is being held via teleconference with the disclosed in-person location available for council and public member participation. For all those who wish to participate online, please log on to the WebEx website provided on the posted agenda for this meeting. Instructions to connect to the meeting are provided on the agenda. The preferred audio connection is via telephone conference and not the microphone and speakers on your computer. The phone number and access code will be provided as part of your connection to the meeting. During each call for comments from Dental Assisting Council members and speakers, we will ensure that all comments that can be accommodated are heard before proceeding with the agenda. This is an official meeting of the Dental Assisting Council. The Council welcomes public comments on any item on the agenda, and it is the Council's intent to ask for public comments prior to the Council taking action on any agenda item. The DCA moderator will explain the process for providing public comment shortly. For individuals participating via WebEx, when called upon, the moderator will give the individual permission to unmute themselves, and they will have 2 minutes to make public comment. The moderator will audibly announce when 30 seconds remain to conclude the public comment. After the 2 minutes have lapsed, the individual will be placed back on mute. Only one public comment per agenda item is allowed per attendee. Depending on the number of people who would like to testify on a particular agenda item, a total time limit may be imposed. We ask all speakers to please stay on topic and not repeat testimony already provided. If you agree with testimony already provided, please just state your name and that you are in support of any comments previously provided. I would now like to ask the DCA moderator to please explain how public comments will be taken during this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When it is time for public comment, we will display visual instructions on the screen as we are doing right now. We ask that people who wish to make a comment raise their hand by tapping the hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users will need to dial *3 to raise a hand. And if you're having trouble finding that hand button, we have a Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen where you can type the word comment and send that comment to all participants. And we will answer people in the order comments are received. As previously stated, you will be given 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I would now like to call the meeting to order and ask for the board staff to call the roll.
Good morning. My name is Morella Turan. I will now call the roll. Epps Robbins.
Epps Robbins present.
Fowler.
Fowler present.
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki present.
Olagi.
Olagi present.
Pacheco.
Pacheco present.
Bliss.
Bliss present.
Reed Espinoza. Absent. A quorum has been established.
Thank you. We will now move on to Agenda Item 2, public comment on items not on the agenda. Before we open public comments on matters not on the agenda, I would like to remind everyone that public comments should address the council as a whole and not individual members. Please be aware that public comment during this agenda item should provide information to the council members, but it is not a discussion between the council members and the public. The only action council members can take right now is to listen to comments and decide whether they want a future agenda item on the topic. Though this may seem at times like the council members are not being responsive, following these guidelines is critical to ensure the rules of the Open Meeting Act are followed to avoid compromising the speaker's goals or the council's mission. In the interest of time, as we have done in the past, we would like to request that public comments not repeat statements made by a prior commenter. If you are in support of a statement made by a prior individual and your comments have already been made, please just state your name or association and your support for the previous commenter. Legislative hearings regularly use this practice as it is a good way to ensure that we can hear from everyone today. Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
We are now accepting public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, raise that hand by tapping the hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item number 3, discussion and possible action on August 17th, 2023 meeting minutes. Is there any council member discussion? Is there a motion and a second? Please state your name and motion or second.
Fowler, motion to accept the minutes.
Olagi, second.
Motion is to accept the minutes. Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
We are accepting public comments for on WebEx for the meeting minutes. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Thank you. Board staff, please call the roll and record votes for this agenda item.
This is Morella Turan. The motion is to accept the August 17, 2023 meeting minutes. I will now call the roll. Epps Robbins. Fowler.
Fowler, aye.
Miyasaki.
Miyasaki, aye.
Olagi. Olagi, yes. Pacheco.
Pacheco, aye.
Bliss.
Bliss, aye.
Reed Espinoza, absent. The motion passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item number 4, Executive Officer Report. I'm going to ask Dr. Tracy Montez, Executive Officer, to present this agenda item.
Good morning. Tracy Montez, Executive Officer of the Dental Board of California. I feel like this is a little bit of a repeat, but I'd like to again remind everybody that by statute, the board has the authority to operate until January 1st, 2025. The sunset date provision is applied to all Department of Consumer Affairs boards and bureaus on a staggered basis so that California legislature can review each entity and its operation and adjust that entity's laws as it sees fit. This is called the Sunset Review process, and the board last went through this process in 2018 and 19. So again, as you are mostly all aware of, this process begins with the board drafting a report based upon questions provided by the legislature. This draft report is then submitted to the board, and we did this in October last month, and the board approved the sunset report and authorized me to make non-substantive changes that may be needed. This report then will be submitted to the legislature by their due date of January 4th, and we're hoping to do so before that, and then it will be posted, and we will await a hearing date, and at that time, the board president, Dr. Felsenfeld, and I, or I should say, the president that is elected, because we will be starting a new year, will work with the legislature, will be at the hearing and respond to any questions that they may have of us, And also, there will be follow-up questions that we will respond. And then upon that, the legislature will make a determination whether or not to extend our operations. And so again, this is something that we talked about in August, and then we went through it at the meeting in October. And so this is just, again, a recap for our Dental Assisting Council community. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Montez. Is there any council member discussion? I just want to mention that I know it's an incredible amount of work for everyone that works in this department, and I just want to commend them for putting in all the effort and hard work for the Sunset Review. Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comments.
We are once again open for public comment, this time on the Executive Officer's Report. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item number 5, update on dental assisting examination statistics. I'm going to ask Ms. Ricky Parks, Dental Assisting Unit Manager, to present this agenda item.
Good morning, Vice Chair Miyazaki and members of the Council. Again, my name is Ricky Parks. I'm the Dental Assisting Program Manager, and we currently have 4 written examinations: the Registered Dental Assistant General and Law and Ethics written exam, the Registered Dental Assistant in Extended Functions written exam, the Orthodontic Assistant written exam, and the Dental Sedation Assistant written exam. The table located on pages 17 and 18 of your meeting materials include candidates who attempted the dental assistant examinations for the past 4 fiscal years. That concludes this agenda item, and I'm happy to answer any questions. There is no action requested.
Is there any council member discussion? Is there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
We are open for public comment on agenda item 5. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. As a quick reminder, if you're having trouble finding that hand button, there's the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen where you can type the word comment to request time for a comment. Looking around, I see no requests for public comment. Do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item number 6, update on dental assisting licensing statistics. I'm going to ask Paige Regali, Chief of Dental Programs and Customer Support, to present this agenda item.
And actually, Ms. Parks is going to present for us today. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning again. Ricky Parks, Dental Assisting Program Manager. The information covered in this agenda reflects the past 4 fiscal years in their entirety. Beginning on page 19 of your meeting materials, you can find information on license applications received, and in the following table, candidates who were approved to test. On page 20, you will find information on licenses issued and canceled applications. On page 21, you will find information on applications withdrawn and applicants applicants who were denied licensure. Moving on to page 26, you will find statistics on active, inactive, delinquent, and canceled licenses or permits for the current and past fiscal years. And on pages 27 through 29 is where the RDA and DDS comparisons are reported. And we've had some questions come up, and I'd like to share some information with you in this public forum. The question asked is, what are the most common reasons for incomplete applications for the RDA? Board staff often receive applications for licensure that are incomplete due to missing information such as mailing address and a signature. Additionally, failure to submit required course completion certificates or failure to submit pathway documents such as a diploma or a work experience. Another question was, what are the common reasons for RDA application denial? And AB 2138 prevents the board and other boards, state departments, from asking the applicant to report their prior convictions to the board when applying. The board revised its applications to comply with AB 2138 a few years ago. The board has posted a link on the applicant page of our website that provides information about licensed applicants who were convicted of a crime or formally disciplined. The board will consider convictions that are substantially related to the qualifications, functions, and duties of the profession. The board also considers the nature and gravity of the offense and the number of years elapsed since the date of the offense. This information comes from the Department of Justice and fingerprinting. And on page 8 of this agenda item, delinquent and canceled licenses are reported. It's important to note that a license that is not renewed for 5 years will become canceled. A delinquent status can indicate a license that is not renewed up until the date in which it becomes canceled. The board cannot offer specific reasons for canceled or delinquent licenses, as it would be inappropriate without data. And then regarding information on page 11, to further explain the source of information reported on page 11, population data is obtained from the Department of Finance, Demographic Research Unit, and the ratios are rounded to the nearest whole number. That concludes this agenda item. There is no action requested, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Is there any council member discussion? I just wanted to get clarification about the applications and when someone, so I understand that that we're no longer asking about convictions on the application, and so those are actually discovered during the application process through the fingerprinting. Is that correct?
Correct.
And also, is it true that if, I think as it was before, that if someone has something expunged from their license, it still will show up?
It will, and that is reported to us from the DOJ. AB 2138 has outlined the information that can be part of the decision-making when deciding to issue a license or not.
And then is the candidate asked for documentation, or is that decided solely on the information provided by the DOJ?
The candidate can submit information on a voluntary basis.
Great. And then, I'm sorry for asking so many questions, but I think it's good to have clarification on the process too as well, for anyone who might be listening in on the meeting too, because it's my understanding is that if someone, like, it's determined on a case-by-case basis. So if someone calls a program and says they have like a misdemeanor or a felony, then we can't tell them whether they, as a program director, we can't tell them whether they would be accepted for the RDA licensure or not. They'd have to go through the program, apply, and then pass, and then it would be considered by the dental board for consideration? Is that how that process goes?
A final decision wouldn't be made until they've met all requirements, including the examination.
Okay.
So the link on our website it provides very detailed information. It would possibly put the person's mind at ease, depending on what their situation is.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate that information. It's really helpful. And then also, I did want to ask about I think I'm having a difficulty understanding the box on the bottom of page 11, and it says for like Trinity County, the population is 1 to 3,167. But when I look at Trinity County in the table above, is that supposed to be the same number for 2023, 24 for the population? Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. That was my mistake.
It's a very difficult information to understand, just because it's all numbers. But the Department of Finance does have a public website as well, and that's where we source our information.
Great, thank you. And thank you for putting all this together. It's really, really helpful.
You're very welcome.
All right, let's see. There. All right, are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
We are open for public comment on agenda item 6. If you'd like to make a comment, tap that hand button at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. Dial-in users would need to dial *3 to raise a hand. And it looks like we have a request for comment from Claudia. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Hold on just a moment. I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. This is Claudia Pohl representing the California Dental Assistants Association. I have 2 comments. Let's see, on page 19 of the meeting materials, the number of applications approved for the RDA exam in 2022 to 2023 was 3837, which is almost double the 2 previous years, which is great news. However, on page 20, under licenses issued, it's up from previous years, but not as much. So, and it's significantly lower than the number of applications approved. So I'm curious as to what is happening between application approval and licenses issued. My second comment is on page 19, again, of the meeting materials. It shows that 2,324 applications were received in 22-23 cycle. 3,827 were approved, and 2,049 licenses were issued, which is on page 20 under licenses issued. But agenda item 5, page 17, page 17 shows that for that same fiscal year, oh, maybe I've mixed my fiscal, no, there it is. This, oh, I have my numbers wrong on that one. Okay, I looked at the wrong fiscal year, sorry. So that question goes away. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And with that, there are no other requests for comment. Do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Parks, for your report.
I'd like, excuse me, to interrupt and just offer a general comment on statistics. Many variables are involved with approving applications, and so you're not always going to see a perfect trend of how many apply and then how many are eventually licensed. Again, there's deficiencies involved in the process, it sometimes takes individuals up to a year to pass the examination. So again, many variables impact those numbers and how they flow through the chart. So just wanted to give a little context to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Parks. We will now move on to Agenda Item 8, presentation from the Board's Access to Care Committee. I will ask Dr. O'Laren, Board Secretary. I'm sorry, I skipped one. We will now move on to item number 7, update on the occupational analysis of the registered dental assistant profession. And I'm sorry, Ms. Parks, I'm glad you stayed there. I'm going to ask Ms. Parks to present this agenda item.
Great. Thank you. Ricky Parks, Dental Assisting Program Manager. Agenda Item 7 can be found on pages 30 and 31 of your meeting materials. This item is to provide an update of the RDA occupational analysis that was conducted in recent years by the Office of Professional Examination Services, or OPES. The full occupational analysis report is located on the board's website, located in today's meeting materials, attachment 7. And the new exam plan will become effective March 1st, 2024, and tables 13 and 14 in the report located on our website includes the registered dental assistant examination outline in detail.
Thank you. Is there any council member discussion? I have a question. I noticed that the test was or is called now the RDA General and Law and Ethics Written Exam, and I noticed that the name of the test actually changed to the RDA Written Exam. Is that the way it's going to be worded for the title of the test?
It's also referred to as the combined RDA combined exam in our regulations. They're intertwined.
Great, thank you. And then I think this is probably a question for OPS and not for you, but I'm just going to ask in general, and maybe someone may be able to answer, is that I could not find the part where the ethics was in the outline, the exam outline. That I didn't see any ethical principle terms or sort of like a describe or no sort of like what ethical principle falls under community service.
Yeah, we took a look at that this morning actually, and it is in the table, the task and knowledge statement. So if you were to look in the occupational analysis report, I believe, is it on 13 and 14?
Yes, if you look at those tables, and it may not necessarily call out ethics because ethics is woven throughout the exam plan, which is why they did the combined exam. And again, the intent of this, although it is a knowledge-based test, it is application of that knowledge. And so when the item writers, subject matter experts, licensees, write the test questions, they will write questions dealing with the ethics of how to that are associated with performing those various tasks. So the test, when they write questions, they're focusing on the task statements that are outlined in that examination plan, and then they use the knowledge base to support that. So there will be ethics, again, woven throughout the exam.
And then those ethical principles or terms will be found in the resources that are provided with the exam.
Correct.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments from the council members? Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
We are open for public comment via WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on agenda item 7, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users will need to dial *3 to raise a hand. Everyone may also type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Thank you. Dr. Montez would like to make a comment.
And again, for the record, I would just like to state that completing an occupational analysis, this is a methodological study of the registered dental assistant profession, of what is currently being done in the job. This process is mandated by Business and Professions Code Section 139, which is based on national testing standards, and it's what makes the examination fair, valid, and legally defensible. And so we do this about every 5 years. And again, it's what drives the exam plan, and it can also be used for training and various other things. And we'll be looking at this as we look at the regulation process that's coming up in a future item, because we want to make sure that we're very consistent in the expectations of what is trained, what is tested, and so forth. And again, just a friendly reminder, the exam does not test everything. It tests what is most critical for safe and effective practice, whereas our educational programs test the entire profession. The exam only takes a sample of that. But again, the board is meeting this mandate, and that's great as a psychometrician and as an executive officer. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Montez. We will now move on to agenda item 8, presentation from the board's Access to Care Committee. And Dr. Laren is the board secretary, and she will be presenting this agenda item. Thank you, Dr. Laren.
Good morning, DAC members and Vice Chair. My name is Dr. Lila Larin. I'm secretary to the board. And first of all, I would like to thank you for the invaluable work you do in your profession. Before being a dentist, I was a RDA for 8 years, so I know how important your job is and the struggles you face. So again, thank you for that. I'm here today to present the Dental Board Access to Care Committee report, Agenda 8, found on page 32 and 33 of your meeting materials. Dr. Yogita Thakur, another board member, and I are members of the Access to Care Committee, and after many years, it was reactivated at the beginning of 2023. On June 20th, 2023, Dr. Thakur and I met with the State Dental Director of California, Dr. Jayant Kumar, to gather ideas of what we can do on the dental board for access to care within our capacity to improve access to oral health in California. Based on our work with Dr. Kumar, the Access to Care Committee presented a report to the California Dental Board members during our August 17, 2023 meeting. The committee recommended that the Dental Board concentrate access to care efforts in addressing staffing shortages in the profession. By working on increasing the workforce in dentistry, we believe that this will also help increase access to care in the state. The committee requested that the board discuss and consider authorizing the committee to take action on the following action items in your book. First of all, explore the strategies to improve licensure examination transparency. For example, add more content to candidate information bulletins to assist with exam preparation. Maybe, like, for example, add some sample questions to the bulletin, or any other ideas. And that's why we're here, because we would like you to also participate in giving us ideas on what we can do with this. The second item is evaluate the impact of examination administration time on candidates whose second language is English. I know Spanish is a second language in California, and I just saw a bulletin from Governor Newsom about wanting to extend bulletins and convert them to the Spanish language. So that's also what we could do here. And I know there's some other boards that do have exams in Spanish, but we need to analyze that and see if it's working. Item number 3 is to survey the candidates to determine how they study for examinations and find out why they're failing. We would like to develop a survey, see how we can do that. I know there's some issues that we might face doing that, but possibly do it for the candidates that have failed 2 times the exam. Maybe we can survey them, ask them why they think they failed or what's missing. Number 4 is to analyze the pathways to licensure for registered dental assistants to determine if the pathways are facilitating access to practice in a fair and valid manner. We know that there are other ways. We have to look at other ways for licensure. For example, foreign dentists are working in other jobs in the state, and we might be able to call them in and have them just take the RDA exam or something else, or make sure, verify their license, where it comes from, and then have them take the RDA exam. But we should find other ways to be able to license more dental assistants. The Access to Care Committee requested that the board move to authorize the committee to take action on the 4 action items listed and allow the committee to work with board staff and provide status reports at future board meetings. A motion was made, seconded, and public comment was requested and heard. The motion to approve the 4 action items was approved unanimously by the board vote. And again, we are open to any suggestions, and we'll look forward to working together with you on the Access to Care Committee. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Ledin. Is there any council member discussion? So I have thank you for all this research. It's really wonderful to see that this access to care issue is being looked at. And the Dental Assisting Council, we support these actions. And from an educator standpoint, I think I can sort of make some general comments that I've received from other educators about just to help maybe focus the research. One of the things is that a lot of people are always asking for review textbooks for examinations, and it's hard to understand, but the review textbooks that are offered on a nationwide basis are often targeted toward the CDA exam, and some are sometimes better than the others. So in California, there are RDA review courses offered by for-profit private programs that will review for the RDA exam in, say, one weekend, like a Saturday and a Sunday, or they might offer like an online course for that, which is available. The Danby Dental Assisting National Board that offers the CDA exam, which is sometimes accepted in some states and not really recognized in California, has a Dale Foundation, and their review materials for general chairside infection control and radiology are really excellent, and they also offer review tests as well at a cost. So those are really valuable exam materials, review materials that could be possibly looked at. And then, is there any comment from the council? Member Epps Robbins?
Epps Robbins. I do have a question. You did mention that possibly with a foreign dentist that they could come in and possibly do a survey or some type of questionnaire. Was that not what you stated?
No, item 4 was just looking at the foreign, that's just a possibility. That
would that have a cost to them to do this, and would that be placed as a public survey once that data was received?
Item, which one was that? It was, those are 2 different items. One is the survey, and the last one, the 4, is possibly looking into foreign dental graduates being able to take their RDA exam. That would be on their own. They would study on their own. There would be no cost. You just have to verify their licensure and make sure it's valid. And we might be able to do some we might have to do some more investigation on that also. and make sure they are licensed, and then they would take their RDA exam. But, I mean, we still, this is barely a presentation. We haven't looked into any of this, so we look forward to any ideas and questions that you might have, so we can make sure it gets added to the Access to Care Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And if I may, Tracy Montez, again, this is just a very general outline that the Access to Care Committee has provided. I know they're very eager to delve into these issues, but I have respectfully asked them to wait until the new year so that we could get through our sunset report, and then we will delve into each of these and anticipate providing updates at future meetings. And certainly, if you could work through me, and then I can relay feedback to Dr. Loren and the board, we can do that and make sure that we're collaborating on these issues. And as mentioned, we have to be very careful with surveying because we are not permitted to just ask any kind of information. There's actually codes and laws that govern what we can and cannot ask for. So we have to be sensitive to that. So we will, of course, be working with our attorneys and guidance on how to gather information. But again, the point of this is really how can we improve access to care. So right now, we're just kind of throwing it all out there and then see where we can go and what makes sense. So appreciate everybody's feedback and thoughtful process.
Thank you.
Miyazaki, I just wanted to continue with some additional comments, and one had to do with number 3, not exactly about surveying the candidates, but just there's, from my experience as being an educator and hearing other educators discuss the work experience pathway, that many people that do the work experience pathway may not work in the general chairside office. They might work in pedo, perio, ortho, or endodontics, and not have that general chairside experience. So that is something that's just should be noted, I believe. And also, I do know that many people have commented to me that they go online and look at Quizlets, and I've looked at the Quizlets, and oftentimes sometimes the answers are wrong too as well. So maybe just trying to explain to candidates on our website that might be not exactly a great resource if it's not something that comes from a valid entity. And then the last comment I wanted to make is that I'm looking at the statistics, and on a previous agenda item, which is agenda item number 6, and it talks about the license types, and like in California for 2023 for RDA, there's 28,000 active license, like almost 4,000 inactive, but there's almost 14,000 delinquent and 54,000 canceled. And I'm wondering that here's a pool of people, it seems hard to believe that they would all move out of the state or what's happening to them, but there's 28,000 active, but then there is like almost like 70,000 that either are delinquent or cancel their license, and maybe that might be a source of investigation because that's already, these are people who are already licensed as dental assistants, and they don't have to actually go through the process, which could be months to a year of applying for their RDA. Again, these are just views. They're not keep or toss.
Great, thank you.
Great. Are there any other questions or statements from the council members? Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Laren.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Dr. Laren, I have to ask you to come back because we have to ask for the comments from the public. I apologize for that.
No problem.
Are there any in-person public comments?
Hello. My name is Tuka Zokai. I'm representing the California Dental Association. I wanted to share that CDA is aligned with the goals of the Dental Board's Access to Care Committee and actions to explore strategies to increase pathways to licensure. We also wanted to comment on opportunities to further these efforts and CDA encouraging the Dental Board to explore how the RDA exam can be offered in different languages as a recommendation from the data collected from AB 269. In January 2024, the Dental Assisting National Board, DANB, will begin offering its Radiation Health and Safety RHS exam in Spanish, making it the first Spanish language dental assisting credentialing exam to be offered nationally. So we encourage the board to explore dental assistant certification exams that can be offered in plain language, similar to Oregon's House Bill 3223 that now offers in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other in-person public comments?
Joan Greenfield, representing the Dental Assisting Alliance. The subject's been brought up before. I believe Ms. Sherry Becker brought up this comment in the last meeting. The elephant in the room is always salary, and one of the big issues is, and has been forever since I've been in dentistry for 300 years, is salary. Actually 299, but that's right. And it's an issue that people who are trying to figure out how to bring more people in are not addressing. There's a bill that goes into effect in April, I believe, that requires that fast food workers be paid $20 an hour. They don't have to get a license. They don't have to do anything. They're going to get $20 an hour, and yet you have lots and lots of dental assistants, be they DAs, RDAs, that are getting paid that or less, that have to jump through a lot more hoops. One of the things I might ask, and I know I'm specific, is I know that when the exams are done, that you do an analysis of questions that are in the exam but not counted, and to see whether they're valid and so forth. But has anyone ever done an analysis of which questions are continually, what subject areas perhaps more, that people are continuing to fail? And maybe there's some, in regard to failure on the exam, maybe there's some information there. Are there some particular areas, subject areas or whatever? Is that something that's ever done? I know I'm not supposed to ask you a question, but that's something to look at too. But I think that's one of the bigger issues. The other issue, perhaps, to help is that the average, if you ask the average, and I have this happen to me all the time, most people, if you said hygienist, they would know that was the person that they go to that cleans their teeth. When you say dental assistant, they think of the person that's sitting there sucking spit and passing instruments. And that's, the DA even has some direct duties. The RDA and the EF are way beyond that. So I think perhaps there's a perception in the general public, maybe this isn't something that I want to do. And maybe there needs to be more advertising or something on the part of the profession to interest people in the profession, and that they can then progress. That's the one thing that the folks that are going to get $20 an hour flipping burgers or whatever, they're not going to maybe become a manager, but other than that, they're not going to progress from there. So there's some possible suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
We are open for public comment on agenda item 8. If you'd like to make a comment, raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. I see we have a few mobile devices who have joined us. You keep in mind you have 3 different screens and only one of them has a hand. If you can't find the hand button, you may type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a couple seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, would you like to continue with the agenda?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Laren, for your presentation, and the Dental Assisting Council supports your goals, and let us know in any way that we can help you.
Thank you.
Great. We will now move on to Agenda Item 9A, Discussion and Possible Action to form an advisory working group to review and revise the Dental Assisting Comprehensive Rulemaking California Code of Regulations, CCR, Title 16, Sections 11, 1014, 1067 to 1071, 1076 to 1077.3, 1080 to 1081.3, 1083, 1085-1087. I'm going to ask David Brueggemann, Legislative and Regulatory Specialist, to present this agenda item.
Hello. Thank you, Vice Chair Miyazaki, and welcome, council members. I'm here with our Regulations Counsel, Christy Shields, and we're here to discuss the memo that starts on page 34 of the meeting materials. You, council members may remember that at the August meeting we discussed that the comprehensive dental assisting and regulatory review that the council and the board had participated in the 2017-2018 time frame needed revisiting, that there was significant passage of time, and in the memo which Ms. Shields has written that starts on page 36 of the meeting materials, she outlined some pretty significant concerns in terms of how the rulemaking language that was developed at that time may not pass through the regulatory process that is governed by the Administrative Procedures Act. And as a result, at the August board meeting, staff brought a proposal to the board to to pull back the previously approved rulemaking language and direct the council to appoint a working group of not more than 2 members to revisit this rulemaking, to keep in mind some of the issues that have been identified, and to update the rulemaking language to move forward with revised proposals at a future date. So the board agreed to this proposal. They rescinded the previously approved language, and they have asked the council to consider and appoint members to this working group. And that's the extent of our memo. We're asking that the board, we're asking that the council appoint such a working group, and Ms. Shields and I are here to address any questions that you or the public may have on the matter.
If I may, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Christy Shields. I've been with the department since 2000, and I've held various roles through that time. Board counsel for many of the boards in the department, done litigation, employment, personnel issues for the department, and most recently I've been appointed to the regulations unit to do second-level review of the work of the boards and bureaus on regulations in the department. I was this board's counsel around 13 or 14 years ago. I worked on the existing dental assisting educational program regulations, and they have not been updated since I left as board counsel. And I'm back, and it looks like they need to be updated again. So when I looked at this proposal, which was reviewed by another counsel for you, who hadn't been with the department for very long, didn't have a lot of experience in educational programs. I've also been the Bureau for Private Post-Secondary Education's counsel for a decade. So I'm really familiar with educational programs and how approvals work. And so I'm going to see the review of text in a different way than someone who has less experience, and I think that's why this has been held up, and I apologize that it's been held up for you, but it's complicated. And so I think the best approach, and that I'm recommending here, and I've recommended to the board, is that a 1 or 2 person advisory group be formed so that we can meet a lot and consistently over time to get these regulations where you need them to be for your profession and for the board's regulation of these professions. In particular, I'd recommend someone who has a lot of time and availability and expertise, particularly in the educational program area. That's where we're going to need a lot of input, because that's, I think, where there's been the most development and not a lot of update
as far as this, that I can see. So if you have any questions for me, I'm going to turn it back over to the council.
Is there any council member discussion?
No, but I'd like to be, Fowler speaking. I'd like to be one of the members for the advisory group or committee.
As noted, Fowler would like to be one or two members of the recommended committee. Is there any other member discussion? I'd like to add that I would also like to be on as part of the committee. I was in the original meetings with the stakeholders back in 2017, 2018, and I've heard the stakeholders' concerns back then and the issues surrounding the proposal. And I do have lots of time actually to participate in this process, and I can actually even come to Sacramento if need be, because I'm fairly close by. Is there any other council discussion?
I'd like to make a motion. I move to create a working group composed of Council Member Fowler and Miyazaki to review and make recommendations to possibly revise the board's regulations on dental assisting in consultation with Regulation Council and board staff, and bring back any revised text for discussion and possible action at a future dental assisting council meeting.
Is there a second?
S. Robbins, second.
Okay. Olagi made motion and Epps Robbins seconded. Let's see. The motion is move to create a working group composed of Member Fowler, Member Miyazaki to review and make recommendations to possibly revise the board's regulations on dental assisting in consultation with the Regulations Council and board staff, and bring back any revised text for discussion and possible action at a future council meeting. Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
We are open for public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, please tap that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise a hand. Mobile device users, reminder that you have 3 different screens and a hand on only one. If you cannot find a hand button, the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen will allow you to type the word comment, where you can submit your request for comment. We will take people in the order we receive. In the order we receive requests, you will be given 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Caller 3, I see that you have your hand up. Hold on just a moment. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone. You will need to dial *6.
Yes, I'm requesting this to be put on a future meeting agenda, an investigation or inquiry into why your complaint department has such a poor rating, 1 star, and on various social medias, and what can be done to improve that. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other requests for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Thank you. Board staff, please call the roll and record votes for this agenda item.
This is Morella Turan. I will now call the roll. Epps Robbins.
S. Robbins, aye.
Fowler.
Fowler, aye.
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki, aye.
Olagi.
Olagi, yes.
Pacheco.
Pacheco, aye.
Bliss. Reed Espinoza. Absent. The motion passed.
Before we go on to the next agenda, Tracy Montez, I would just like to again emphasize my commitment to moving this package forward. We are extremely fortunate to have two incredible attorneys who are very driven and will keep us on task. And so I just want everyone to know that we will be collaborating and receiving feedback and doing our best to work together and to move this. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Montez. We will now move on to agenda item number 9B, consideration of proposed regulatory language and discussion and possible recommendation to initiate a rulemaking to amend CCR Title 16, Sections 1080, 1080.3, 1080.1, and 1081.2. I'm sorry, 1081 and 1081.2. Adopt Sections 1081.3 and 1081.4 and repeal Sections 1081.1, 1081.2, 1081.1, 1082, 1082.1, 1082.3, and 1083, related to dental assisting examinations. I'm going to ask Mr. Brueggemann to present this agenda item.
Hi, this is David Brueggemann again, and I'm going to start with discussing the memo that's begins on page 41 of the meeting materials. The proposal that we're bringing forward to the council for a recommendation to the board deals with a cleanup of the existing regulations concerning dental assisting examinations, both in terms of the passing scores and in terms of those regulations which are currently under the dental board's regulations that address dental hygienists, but there's subsequently been movement by the dental hygiene board to develop their own regulations covering dental hygienists. So this is a part of this proposal involves a cleanup of those regulations to ensure there's not duplicate regulations with respect to those procedures. In terms of the passing scores, what this proposal would do is to mirror what was done for dental, a previously approved board rulemaking concerning the dental examinations, that they would establish not a simple numerical passing score, but what is called a criterion reference passing score. And that's going to apply standards for practice to all candidates regardless of the form of the examination. And in specifics, the OPES, and Dr. Montez obviously is going to be able to explain this as much more detail than I can, that they follow a specific kind of methodology called the modified Angoff technique, which brings together licensed practitioners in the respective disciplines as well as test development specialists to determine at what level would be the minimum to demonstrate basic competence for an entry-level practitioner in that profession. And so those criterion reference passing scores would be more effective in demonstrating that basic competence that we're seeking to find through these examinations. And so the proposed regulations would establish those criterion reference passing scores for all of the license types related to dental assisting, registered dental assistant and extended functions, and both the orthodontic assistant permit and the dental sedation assistant permit. Currently, some of those classifications do not have any passing scores and regulations, and some of them are simply based on a numerical score. Additionally, we are updating the language in these sections on the exams to better reflect current practice. And as I indicated before, for those provisions in our regulations which deal with dental hygienist exams, that the Dental Hygiene Board has already established their own regulations, we're proposing that those dental board regulations be repealed. So again, we're dealing with updating our passing score requirements and cleaning up duplicative regulations. I'm here with our Regulations Counsel, Christy Shields, and we could be happy to entertain any questions from the public or from the council.
Thank you. Is there any council member discussion? I just want to say thank you so much for bringing this information in front of us, and for the dental board department for making the revisions, and also explaining the information on it was easy to understand, and so I could flow through the material without having to look up actually anything. Just being able to understand the explanation that was provided was great.
Fowler? Yes. Fowler, I was on the proposed text of the dental assisting examinations. It's page 46 of our meeting materials at the very top. It starts out on page 45, if an examinee does not have a thumb or a print cannot be captured, the test center proctor shall scan the pointer finger. If the examinee has no thumbs or fingers, the test center, and it goes on. Can we change the word where it says fingers at the top of 46 to say fingerprints that are able to be captured? Can we word it that way?
Well, I think we've been advised not to use the word fingerprints because it denotes some kind of a criminal history collection process. So DGS, Department of General Services, told us not to use that word when we're not actually talking about fingerprinting for rap sheets or collection of quarry, running criminal background checks, because it might confuse people into thinking that their fingerprints being taken for that purpose, when actually all it's being done is being retained on site to use as an identifying marker. So the test center specialist told us to use this language. I know I originally wrote it fingerprint, and Tracy Dr. Montez flagged it as a problem. So I understand what you're saying, and I wrote it that way originally, but then was told to change it because of the Department of General Services position on the use of that word.
Okay.
Sorry.
And sorry, just to add to that, again, this is language that's used for other boards and bureaus when they go get their computer-based testing, their candidates. So it's model language that, as Christy pointed out, doesn't make a lot of, well, it's confusing, but we can't use fingerprints.
Vice Chair Miyazaki, I was wondering, maybe I've watched too many movies, but I've seen that they do the eyeball, and I'm wondering, just to avoid revisions in the near future, could it be referenced as like an anatomic landmark instead, so it could be a part?
Well, the problem is the Office of Administrative Law would say that's a clarity problem because everybody doesn't have the same understanding of what that term means. It has to be a universally understood and accepted term, and usually we start from dictionary-type words to describe things, and if we get more technical, then we have to break down what we mean in the regulation. So I would say no, that would probably not.
It'd be like 2 paragraphs to explain that, right?
Yeah, right. So,
right. I just have one other question. Do the acceptable government issue photographic identification cards, whatever is presented, does that include the VA identification too as well, if someone was coming from a VA?
We have military identification and that would include active duty retiree or reservist.
Okay, and if someone works at the VA but is not in the military, like they're in the dental clinic?
I think that we're looking for photographic ID that is usually typically accepted by like INS or governmental entities that use identities to verify someone's legal presence in the state, and this is the list that I think that has been used universally for our test administrator, and so we're trying to stay consistent with the test administrator. PSI is your current test administrator.
That makes sense. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Any other comments from the council? Let's see. Is there a motion and a second?
So if you have no changes, we ask for motion A, which is on page, let me see,
43 of the meeting materials.
I'll make the motion for motion A. Shall I read the? Motion A is recommend to the board approval of the proposed regulatory text in attachment A and recommend the board to consider all of the following actions. Number 1, direct staff to submit a text in attachment A to the director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review, and if no adverse comments are received, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for a hearing if requested. Number 2, if no adverse comments are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations as noticed for Title 16 California Code of Regulations, sections 1080, 1080.3, 1080, 1081.2, 1081.3, and 1081.4, and repeat sections 1080.1, 1080.2, 1081.1, 1082, 1082.1, 1082.3, and 1083. Is there a second?
Fowler, second.
Fowler, second.
And I just want to clarify that you're repealing those last provisions, so just to clarify for the record.
Oh.
Those are the sections that are being repealed because they're duplicative of the Dental Hygiene Board's regulations have been superseding these last sections.
Thank you.
We're repealing those.
Substitute repeal. We're repealing and not repeating them. Sorry about that. My apologies. Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
We are open for public comment on 9B. We have a motion on the table. If you'd like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Better yet, raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a couple of seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests, you wish to continue with the motion?
Thank you. Board staff, please call the roll and record votes for this agenda item.
This is Marella Turan. I will now call the roll. Epps Robbins.
Epps Robbins, aye.
Fowler.
Fowler, aye.
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki, aye.
Olagi.
Olagi, yes.
Pacheco.
Pacheco, aye.
Bliss.
Bliss, aye.
Reed Espinoza, absent. The motion passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item number 10, update on legislation. I'm going to ask Mr. Brueggemann to remain and to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Vice Chair Miyazaki. This will be a brief update. The Council is aware, based on the last couple of meetings, about AB 481, which is a bill introduced in the legislature this year to make significant revisions to the dental assisting chapter of the Dental Practice Act. That bill did not move out of the Senate Appropriations Committee and was not passed by the legislature this year. As of yesterday, it has not been designated as a two-year bill, and if that remains the case, once the legislature reconvenes in 2024, the bill would need to be reintroduced and essentially restart the legislative process, or what I suspect to be more likely is that the stakeholders that were supporting that particular bill would seek to have the changes that were suggested in the bill incorporated into the board's sunset legislation, which will be dealt with in the spring of 2024. We're not asking any action from the Council this time, and that's the extent of my report.
Thank you. Is there any Council member discussion? Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
We are open for public comment on agenda item 10. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand. If you have trouble finding that hand button, type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and send that comment to all participants. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item number 11, election of 2024 Council Chair and Vice Chair. I'm going to ask Dr. Montez to present this agenda item.
Thank you. Again, Tracy Montez. It is that time of year for the election of our 2024 Council Chair and Vice Chair. Yes, we have gone through an entire year and are ready to get started for 2024. So at this point in time, I would like to open up nominations for Council Chair. It has been brought to my attention that at this time we do have one individual that has been nominated, Ms. Miyazaki, and she has accepted the nomination, and I'd like to confirm that for the record. Do you accept the nomination of Council Chair?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'd also like to see if there are any other nominations for the Council Chair position. Seeing none at this time, are there any in-person comments or nominations regarding the Council Chair position? I see none. DCA moderator, would you please see if there are any comments or nominations from our WebEx participants?
We are accepting nominations via WebEx. If you'd like to make a nomination, please raise a hand or unmute and let us know your opinion.
And to clarify, it is public comment on the nomination.
We are also accepting public comment on the nomination. If you'd like to make a comment, raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand. And if you're having trouble finding the hand button, please use the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and send a comment to all participants. We're going to take a few more seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Okay, thank you. So I need a motion to put forth the nomination of Kara Miyazaki for Chair, Council Chair for 2024.
Fowler, I motion to elect Kara Miyazaki as Council Chair for 2024.
Do I have a second?
That's Robbins, second.
Thank you. I will now ask board staff to call the roll and record the vote. Oh, thank you. Sorry, public comment on the motion to appoint Ms. Miyazaki Council Chair for 2024.
We are open for public comment on the motion. If you would like to make a comment on the nomination, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand. You may also type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. We're going to take just a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, do you wish to continue with the motion?
I would, thank you. Is there any in-person comment on the motion? Seeing none, board staff, would you please call the roll?
This is Marella Turan. I will now call the roll for Karen Miyazaki as the 2024 Council Chair. Epps Robbins.
Epps Robbins, aye.
Fowler.
Fowler, aye.
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki, aye.
Olagi.
Olagi, yes.
Pacheco.
Pacheco, aye.
Bliss.
Bliss, aye.
Reed Espinoza. Absent. The motion passed.
Thank you. I would now like to open the nominations for the Vice Chair and ask for nominations at this time. I will state for the record that Ms. Fowler was nominated for the Vice Chair position, and again, will confirm that she accepts this nomination.
Fowler accepts.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for this position? Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion, and then we will go to public comment. So is there a motion to appoint Ms. Fowler as the 2024 Council Vice Chair?
Miyazaki motion to appoint Ms. Fowler as Council Vice Chair.
And a second.
Epps Robbins, second.
Thank you. Is there any council comment? Any in-person public comment on this motion? Seeing none, DCA moderator, would you please open up the lines for public comment on the motion?
We are open for public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users dial *3 to raise a hand. And if you're having trouble finding that hand button, type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. We're going to take just a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to ask the board staff to call the roll and record the votes for the motion of Ms. Fowler as the 2024 Council Vice Chair.
This is Marella Turan. I will now call the roll for Jerry Fowler as the 2024 Council Vice Chair. Epps Robbins.
Epps Robbins, aye.
Fowler.
Fowler, aye.
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki, aye.
Olagi.
Olagi, yes.
Pacheco.
Pacheco, aye.
Bliss.
Bliss, aye.
Reed Espinoza. Absent. The motion passed.
Congratulations. Thank you to Ms. Miyazaki and Ms. Fowler for our new chair and vice chair. Your terms will begin January 1st, 2024, and I will then now turn it over to our vice chair to conclude the meeting.
Thank you. This concludes the November 8th, 2023 Dental Assisting Council meeting. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. We will take a break till 10:45, and then we will start the board meeting.